Welcome back to It's Not a Sport. Welcome back to It's Not a Sport, episode 17. There's some interesting pieces of news this week. We're going to talk about that in our next segment. We're going to also talk about kind of the history of Assassin's Creed for me. Was moving on to that, the big games releases for today and probably October is that Mario Party for the Switch is released on Friday today, which is October the 5th, and also Assassin's Creed Odyssey drops today as well. Mega Man drops October 2nd, and Forza Horizon 4, which is the big car racing game for the Xbox, dropped October 2nd as well. So far there have been a lot of good reviews for Assassin's Creed Odyssey, but we'll get into that in the next segment. In terms of esports and the Overwatch League, nothing is really happening right now until next month at BlizzCon, which I believe is playoffs for the Overwatch World Cup. In terms of League of Legends, however, this week was the first week of Worlds, and they are in the plans. So there's actually games today and tomorrow, as well as, just today and tomorrow night. So if you're up tonight at 11 p.m. Central Time for me, Cloud9 versus Gambit esports will be happening, and then right after that will be Edward Gaming versus Detonation Focus Me. And then tomorrow will be G2 versus Infinity Esports, and then G-Rex versus Supermassive. The games have been very, very interesting, they've been some battles just to see how each team from different regions duke it out, and these are our third place seeds, so these teams that I just announced are battling for their final spot in whatever group they get in. In terms of overall what happened with the play-in groups, in Group A, which was Edward Gaming, Infinity Esports, and Direwolves, Edward Gaming went 3-1, Infinity Gaming went 2-2, and Direwolves went 1-3. In Group B, which was G2, Supermassive, and Ascension Gaming, G2 went 4-1, which I don't even know how that's possible. Supermassive went 3-2, and Ascension Gaming was 0-4. In Group C, which was Cloud9, Detonation Focus Me, and Kaboom Esports, Cloud9 went 4-0. Let's go in A. Detonation Focus Me went 2-3, and Kaboom went 1-4. In Group D, which was G-Rex, Gambit Esports, and Chaos Aladdin Gamers, G-Rex went 4-0, Gambit went 2-2, and Aladdin Gamers went 0-4. So those games should be very hyped up. I'm really hoping, Cloud9 just wins their game and they just move on, even though they'll be put in a very bad group, supposedly. But it's really good to, just see your team kind of start out well. There have been rumors that in some Chinese rumor scrims, because the Chinese teams share everything, as long as the Korean teams also share everything. This is part of why NA as a whole is a weaker region, because we don't share information. We got to keep it secretive. Is that every Western team except Fnatic has been kind of underperforming, and that's the rumor. Anyway, we're going to move on to our next segment. We're going to talk a little bit of news that came out this week, and we're also going to then talk about Assassin's Creed. Let's move on. So with the release of Assassin's Creed comes a whole bunch of kind of tidbit reviews that Microsoft kind of is pushing, or not Microsoft, my bad, Ubisoft is pushing. But before I get into that, there were also some kind of smaller announcements. First off, Cyberpunk 2077 is rumored to be, I think, released in 2019. I believe either the second quarter or the first, around there. And then there's also kind of a rumored announcement that a Harry Potter video game is in development, which is interesting nonetheless. And then the last big announcement is Google. So with the release of Assassin's Creed, Google has announced that they are going to produce a streaming service. Basically what this is that it's been a concept for a very long time. Back when I was a boy back in maybe 2007-ish, 8-ish, 9-ish, early 2010, around there, there's a company called OnLive. And what it was is that it was essentially Steam, but you streamed the video games. So you were buying the video games and you were streaming them. It was very janky. If you had terrible internet, it does not work, because then not only will you lag, but your game will lag. So it really relied heavily on good internet. So it was basically Netflix for video games, so to speak. And now Google just announced that they're doing the same thing with Assassin's Creed in your Chrome browser. So apparently there are a lot of restrictions to it, of course, but you can play Assassin's Creed Odyssey in your Chrome browser. Just stream it from, I guess, basically any computer anywhere. I believe the Switch, Ubisoft also pushed this for the Switch, where you can stream Assassin's Creed to your Switch. So they really seem to be pushing this streaming sort of aspect. And what this means for the business side is that if it goes through and if it's successful, it basically becomes like Netflix, where maybe we, instead of buying the games now, we just pay for a subscription, like a flat subscription, and then we can just stream all those games on those platforms for, how much this subscription went. That wasn't how OnLive worked. How OnLive worked is that you still have to buy the game, but then you could play it as much as you want. I think there's also free trials too on OnLive. It's a really cool concept, and it's very interesting to see Google being the first to tackle this. I think they have the resources to tackle it compared to other sites where Amazon is more in, because Amazon owns Twitch, so they're more into streaming as entertainment, like TV. Though they did recently lose, I believe, a huge audience because they got banned in China, which really sucks. And then Facebook is, if you watch my stream, I stream on Facebook, because that's their kind of borderline, I think, competitor to Twitch. And I think Facebook right now is facing like a lot of heat, and they aren't really growing that development, that their platform, the streaming video game platform, as much as they should. But if they do, they could definitely give Twitch a run for their money. In terms of streaming video games, however, I would not see Amazon doing it. I would see maybe Apple doing it if Apple had an interest in those things. Apple doesn't really have an interest in game development or the video game industry in general. they're more set about releasing the same phone each year, and that's, how it's been for decades now, just because the Apple brand is worth so much that they don't really, they're not really trying to grow as a company. They just try to keep the same phone over and over again. I think Samsung would definitely attempt it, especially with their smart TVs and all the features that are on their smart TVs. Google would attempt it. Obviously, they're doing it. And then that's, when it comes to other companies I think that can stream, maybe Facebook and then maybe some Korean companies. I think Sony tries it with the PlayStation, but it's not really to great success. But if Google does it and you can just play it from your Chrome browser, that's going to be huge. Moving on to Assassin's Creed. Assassin's Creed has always been a series very close to my heart. My favorite one would be Brotherhood and then Assassin's Creed 2. And especially Assassin's Creed 2, because I think Assassin's Creed 2 really made what Assassin's Creed famous, so to speak. Those were, in my times, the golden age of Assassin's Creed. Nowadays, I played Origins, finished it during the summer. I was not impressed. I think I dropped Assassin's Creed after Black Flag, and then after that, I didn't really play them because it was the same formula over and over again. They were going the Call of Duty route, and I don't think the stories were that interesting. Origins was a different kind of story, where my only problem with Origins is how they tackled the open world. I think the open world aspect of it and all the side quests that you could do is incredibly important. However, when you are level capped to do the story, that's when it becomes a problem. If I have to do side quests in order to become X level to do the story, when it's primarily a story-driven game, that's when it becomes a problem. And that was my biggest problem with Assassin's Creed Origins. And Assassin's Creed Odyssey obviously continues that theme and probably grows on Origins a lot. But that was my biggest problem. Games, you shouldn't be able to have to do side quests to level. If you want to do side quests, you should over level, but you should always be the minimum level to do the quest. Skyrim's a perfect example of this. The new Spider-Man's a perfect example of this. Basically almost kind of any game. You don't have to, any story-driven game is, you can always do it. You can always just rush into the story and just do the story. Unless it's an MMO, but that's different. I think you should be doing side quests to level up unless it's a lot of story. So, the history of Assassin's Creed was, for me, it's been on and off. With Assassin's Creed 2 and Brotherhood, I think it was very different. I think the writing was a lot more better than Origins. I think it was a lot more engaging, and the soundtrack helped a lot. The soundtrack for Assassin's Creed 2 basically set this, and Brotherhood set the standard, the famous Assassin's Creed theme. Oh, Assassin's Creed 2. I mean, that's where it comes from, and it set up the universe. And when I'm playing Origins lacked that. It lacked an engaging soundtrack, and I thought the story itself was safe. It was very safe. Where Ezio had to, actually had to go on a journey, and we saw him lose things, and we saw him gain things, and we saw him improve. the story of kind of revenge in Assassin's Creed Origins, only to kind of say, okay, I'm gonna, spoiler alert by the way, I'm gonna break up with my wife and I'm gonna stay here. I'm gonna start, the Creed now to go against the Order. It was safe, and that was my biggest problem with it, is that it wasn't really that engaging. The entire game was more like, do this for Cleopatra, kill this dude, you want to kill this dude, you want to kill this dude because he did one thing for you, and you never saw the improvement of the character. But I think that it was safe because they're trying to really establish the beginning of a world that you've already started, which is incredibly difficult. But I thought that the Eagle Skull and how they finished it, and how, the Creed got to Rome was smart. Like, I think that how they started it was smart, but it was still safe. It was safe, but they started it smart. Odyssey, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, is an exact sequel to Assassin's Creed Origins. So I don't know the story of it. I don't know anything about the game other than it's gotten very good reviews, and that they still it still suffers from the same old where you gotta repeat this step over and over and over and over and over again. But it's good to see like a sequel to continue the story, and I think that they played it safe with Assassin's Creed Origins, and now I think that if hopefully they actually try to expand the game story and make it a lot more engaging than Assassin's Creed Origins was. What I'm basically hoping for, if you've already bought the game and picked it up today or already played it, is that they focus less on the side mission writing and more on the main story focused writing. The interesting thing about Assassin's Creed Odyssey is that there's no set main character. You can either play as a female or a male, the male character, which is very interesting. Where Origins, you were playing as the husband and then the wife. I think that if they did it smartly, again, that can affect the story in multiple different ways. It can, maybe something happens for the girl that doesn't happen for the boy, or something happens for the boy that doesn't happen to the girl. Just things like that. I think that I've heard one of the biggest compliments is how rich the world is with how good the imitation of Greece is. I think that's also been a fabulous thing since every Assassin's Creed game, is how well they established Italy in Assassin's Creed 2, and how they established Rome in Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, and how they established Egypt in Assassin's Creed Origins. It just really gives me a lay of the land, and also shows me maybe what that land looked like back in, whatever year that the game takes place. I think that's one of the biggest strong points of the Assassin's Creed brand, was the history, that there's so much history in it, and that it looked so real. I think as a kid, I learned a lot about Rome and Italy just by playing Assassin's Creed. The other part of Assassin's Creed is the story that's out of the Animus. This story is the main story, and in pair with Ezio, it was Desmond. Desmond was the main protagonist. And this is where I think, again, when writing becomes very, very hard, because I think when they're doing Assassin's Creed Origins, they are kind of focused on that, but not so much. And it's changed so much with like them from the original game with the Origins. I mean, like again, that's why I said they played their Origins very safe, because they knew they were going to make Odyssey a year later, and now, you know, because the story ended like with the Assassin's dude finding her and the Animus, and now they can kind of progress that story along with like the Odyssey story, and then them removing the cap where it has to be your ancestor also allows them to just explore different zones and not have to create a parallel character like Ezio and Desmond. It's always been interesting what they do with the real life Assassin's Creed story. But again, with Origins, it was not engaging to me, not like Desmond, where with Assassin's Creed 2, you opened with Desmond, and Revelations, which was, you know, final chapter of Ezio, they made you actually, you know, have to play as Desmond at certain points, which they did in Origins, but it was more like, okay, wake up, there's bad guys here, you have a particular set of skills, making you a very dangerous woman, go kill these guys, and then that's it. The last thing I want to see from Assassin's Creed Origins, well, besides a very rich world and a very rich storytelling, and less level grindy, less grindy, I don't know, maybe more references to, I know it's the beginning, but more references to the Assassin's Creed. I think more gadgets and tools, which I think they tried with the other Assassin's Creeds, but it didn't implement 100% well. But I think now that, like, you gotta use the technology of the time, so to speak. You know, the Greeks probably are, I assume at this time, are the most technology advanced. I think it's very interesting that they also kind of went the mythical route as well, because Assassin's Creed originally had these types of deities, these type of gods in it. So, like, Medusa being a final boss, or an endgame boss, like raid boss that you can go fight, is very interesting. I think that they tackle it also like Final Fantasy 15 in a way, where you're like, after you beat the game, there's so many other things to do. It's like that, and I hope that the leveling up system in Origins was fine. I thought that the grinding, leveling up for gear wasn't that good. I think that even though it was a janky system in Brotherhood, where you just had the banks and then you would just, you know, cash in and but with investments and then just go spend all that money, upgrade your gear. I still think that's kind of the ideal way of doing things, where maybe I want to get some materials to upgrade my gear, but I want to, you know, I kind of just want to buy it and upgrade it. But this is kind of the problem with like today's marketing, where they got to keep you playing the game as long as possible. Ubisoft is, again, they've been making it up, but they're probably the second worst video game company right next to EA. I think there was an article about how even though this Assassin's Creed has gotten a lot of good reviews, it's plagued with some microtransactions, which in today's world is definitely a turn off. But however, even though I would not pick it up right away, I think with Christmas coming around the corner, if you ask for it or have the spare funds, I think Christmas is a great time to probably pick it up and probably play it, or Origins if you haven't, because Origins was also, it was a decent game. Even though I wasn't a huge fan of it, it was a decent game. Or just wait a year, because, you know, it's probably going to go on sale anyway, because, you know, they're going to make Assassin's Creed Wakanda or something, you know. That's going to be it for this episode of It's Not a Sport. Thank you for listening. Thanks for watching It's Not a Sport. Check out the links in the description where you can find everything and all sources of It's Not a Sport. Also check out the stream where you can find some quality content. This is Salty Waffles signing off, and tune in next week for another great episode.